move down to go get a second first-round pick. So it's a very this has always been a problem with Cleveland, the owner. So this team's not going to win many games. They didn't love the quarterbacks in this class. So they moved down to get a second pick. They would like to get Arch Manning. The Mannings have a history with Jimmy Haslam, Tennessee guys. So Cleveland's not going to win a lot of games. So the question is, Jimmy Haslam, many believe, forced Andrew Berry and Stefanski to draft Shedeur Sanders. They drafted Dylan Gabriel probably a round or two early, hoping to get out of the Shedeur sweepstakes. So the question is, at some point, Haslam's going to come down and say, play Shedeur Sanders, because this is not a great team. So my guess is Joe Flacco wins the starting job. He's the most NFL ready to play. Joe can win you a game or two. And the first 4 weeks, the staff is going to tell him, Shedeur's not ready, Shedeur's not ready. My guess is they go 0-4, maybe they go 1-3. Haslam's going to come down on Sunday, October 5th, and he says, I want Shedeur to play against Minnesota. And the staff's going to say, we're in London, it's rough. Just give us one more week. We don't want Shedeur having to go overseas. It's a big ask. And so they stave off the owner for a week. Flacco loses that game. I believe Shedeur starts Sunday, October 12th. If Flacco wins that game, he'll get another start October 12th against Pittsburgh, and he'll win that game. I do think he'll lose to Miami and New England. They'll have a bye, and then Shedeur, the staff won't be able to hold it off any longer. Will play Sunday, November 9th at the Jets. By the way, some tough teams down the stretch for Shedeur. But if you believe, and many do, that the owner, he's the one that wanted Manziel. He's the one that did Deshaun Watson. He's the one that wanted Baker Mayfield. This is an ownership group that likes headlines at quarterbacks. Shedeur's a headline. Dylan Gabriel's not. I mean, look, we're paying attention to the Cleveland Browns. Like Jerry Jones, they love their team, their logo, they love everything on TV. So my take is Sunday, October 5th in London, after they start 0-4, 1-3, the owner's going to say, that's what I want. And the staff's going to say, give us one more week. Let's not start him in London. If Flacco loses that game, my guess is Shedeur starts October 12th against the Steelers.
Okay. Let's talk about this one. First off, if what Colin is saying is true, that, the ownership wants Shedeur to play because they want that energy, they want that fame, they want that media attention, they want that money, they want to sell those jerseys, tickets, etc., etc., etc. I don't think you're going to start him in London then. You're going to want to start him at home as well. You're going to want him, home against the Miami Dolphins. Like, it is interesting because you could see them lose to the Bengals. You could see them lose to the Ravens. You could see them lose to the Packers, the Lions. And then it's going to be interesting against the Vikings. How good is J.J. McCarthy? Then you have the Steelers. Like, even if you play him at the Steelers, like, he's a young quarterback. No matter how great of a quarterback Shedeur Sanders is or isn't, young quarterbacks, especially first-year starters, they oftentimes struggle against great defensive coordinators, defensive head coaches. That's their bread and butter. If a defensive coordinator can't get after, if a great defensive coordinator can't get after a young quarterback, then that's a problem here. And so it would be tough against a Mike Vrabel. It would be tough against a Mike Tomlin. It would be tough against a Brian Flores, etc. So it's like, if you're trying to actually put Shedeur Sanders in a position to succeed more than anything, one, I'd sit him for the whole year, quite frankly, and just let him develop and let him learn and grow, and he could just soak up all the wisdom from Tom Brady, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, who has succeeded and failed in the NFL, has been to multiple teams. You learn a lot. You learn a lot from all different voices, learning from Kevin Stefanski, etc., etc. But if you don't want to do that and your hands are forced, it's like, it's out of the bye then. It's, you go through weeks 1 through 8, And then there you go. I mean, you don't want to have him start game 1 against Mike Vrabel and the New England Patriots. That's a tough one. I mean, maybe week 7, because then you try your best to get through week 8, and then you have the bye, because then you get to kind of self-audit your team during the bye. You get to really not only rest up, but then you really get to kind of look over all the stuff that you've done prior to that. You really get to really dig deep in that. That's really the big benefit of the bye, that you get to really kind of see what's working, what's not, and then at least you have some games with Shedeur Sanders actually, on the field playing, where you can then see that, and then on to New York. But I mean, there's no really like easy entry point for Shedeur. It does feel like Shedeur will absolutely start some games, because it does feel like, even whether he's good enough or not, it's like they want him on the field, because again, everyone's talking about Cleveland, and it's all because of Shedeur Sanders. He is the celebrity. That is the energy that Shedeur brings. So again, it's like, the question is then, it's like, how do you insert him into the into the starting roster, and that sets him up to succeed the most? And that first chunk of the schedule, weeks 1 through 6, it's a tough spot to be in, whether because you're international, because of the defensive coaches, which is why the first game that I really see is Miami against the Dolphins, and you're at home. But you do follow up against a Mike Vrabel, and I think that defense should, in theory, be awesome. And then Shedeur's second game of his career is going to be up against a defense that, quite frankly, should be able to, really back him into some corners and really have him not look too hot. It's a tough spot to be in. And then you have the bye, and then you got to play the Jets and the Ravens. And although I don't think the Jets are going to necessarily be this great team, I still think you're on the road, and I think the Jets could still be a great defense, especially with their new defensive head coach. And then again, the Baltimore Ravens, I think will always be ready just to get after you, and especially defensively. Like, I don't know. And then you now are with Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll will be able to expose young quarterbacks. It's just, I don't know. It's not the easiest section. There's lots of moments for you to fail and not really go through some nice growing pains here. Like, you don't have a lot of toss-up games. You don't have the equivalent of last season of saying, hey, we get to play the Jacksonville Jaguars, we get to play the Carolina Panthers, the Tennessee Titans with Will Levis. Like, we get to have those easy moments, and there's not a lot of them right now. So I am interested, and I am interested to see if they move on from Flacco, and if Shedeur leapfrogs any of the other quarterbacks on the roster, right? Like, that's also the question. But I think especially if the Cleveland Browns start off 0-4, which I'm not saying they will, but let's say they start off 0-4, then there really is going to be the feeling of just like, we want to be terrible. We want this top pick in the draft. Let's do it. We're going to turn this franchise around officially. Like, we've made some moves now over these last couple of years. We're going to get the quarterback. This team doesn't feel like Shedeur is truly the guy. So, Kevin Stefanski doesn't feel like he's truly the guy. So they would draft a quarterback. It's like, but then again, it's like, when then what do they do with Shedeur? Is he a trade piece? Does anyone want him? Like, I don't know. Honestly, the whole situation just ends up kind of getting weirder. Yeah, I don't know. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Colin's very specific theory about when Shedeur Sanders is going to play and how it's going to unfold? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.